Hello and welcome everyone to our first coffee and chat for term 3. Today we're going to be talking about spine labels. My name is Quentin. I'll be hosting the session today, and I'm joined with Michael, our CEO. How you going, Michael?
Good.
That's good.
Fantastic.
And Donald, our customer service manager. How are you, Donald?
Good, how are you?
Yeah, good, thank you. So where this all came about, actually, before I kick off the event, today is a live session. So Michael and I are all, Michael, Donald, and I were all live. We're all monitoring the chat from today's session. So if anyone does have any questions, please feel free to pop them into the chat console on your YouTube browser, and we'll be able to try and answer those for you. Now, where this came about was on our community page. And if you're not part of the FSI community, head over to Facebook and join that group. But someone was talking about spine labels not printing properly for them. Okay, so that was, they loaded up all of their spine labels, they hit print. The first couple were okay on the label, but then they started to drift off a little bit and the margins were wrong. So, Donald, or why would the user have been experiencing that?
So, there are a few things that can cause your labels to print off from what we've created them to print as. The main issue I find is that people are using the generic browser PDF viewer. And what do I mean by that? Well, when you open up a PDF, okay, the system needs a program to open that up. Okay, whether it's a third-party program like Adobe or the browser itself, so Google, Firefox, Safari will all have their own PDF viewer that will open up the PDF when you download it after you've exported it. Now, the issue we find is that the browser will add specific margins to the PDF, meaning your left, right, top, and bottom. Okay, and we've also added our specific margins to the export as well. So let's say we've added 2 centimeters from the top margin, okay, 2 from the bottom, 5 from the left, 5 from the right. The browser will take that into account and then add its own margins to it as well, and that will obviously throw out your spine labels when printing. Other things could be
And just with that, sorry to interrupt,
Yeah.
Donald, but we're talking
it's all good.
millimeters for margins, aren't
Yes.
we?
Yeah.
So, and that's why,
Yeah.
and that's why when you go to print, sometimes you won't notice it straight away. You'll be going ahead, scanning a couple of books, cataloging them, chucking them on the shelf. It's not until we start dealing with the 10th book and above in a session that we start seeing that the labels are starting to move, because millimeters on the first ones you don't really take too much notice of, but when it's 10 mils off, a full, a whole placement of characters over, that's when we start seeing some issues. So this doesn't come up a lot, but when it does come up, everyone's kind of like, why is it happening now? I've been doing this in the past, no problems. It's usually when you get a big stack of books that have come in, you've just purchased a whole bag of books, and that's when we start seeing these issues.
Yeah, definitely.
Sorry, Donald.
So yeah, that's right. A few other things can be, all printers will print different as well. The way it grabs paper can adjust the alignment as well. But like I said, the main issue is the PDF viewer that you're using. And to combat that, when we create the labels, we always print using Adobe's PDF viewer. It's free. I'll get Quentin to chuck, the download in the description of this video, so that if you're not using it, you can definitely grab that, or just send me a message in the mailbox and I can point you in the right direction as well. But inside that, there are some specific print settings that we follow. And this just ensures that no matter what computer you're on, no matter what printer you're using, it always prints the same. There are some very rare occasions where it's not printing exactly the same. And I'm sure Quentin will go over how we can then edit the spine labels to fit how your printer is deciding to print it, even though it's different to the way our printer's printing.
Yep.
But it does happen. It is rare. But 99% of the time, printing using Adobe's PDF viewer normally clears up the issue for everyone.
Yeah. Cool. And with those issues, Donald, is it best for the customers to attempt to align the margins themselves, or is it best to contact us and we can work with the customer to try and get those margins aligned? What's the best option for our customers?
It really depends on the user. Some users like to get their hands dirty and they want to know the ins and outs of the system. And by all means, if you want to play with the reports and the margins, definitely go ahead. If you don't have time, there's no worries. Just send me or send a ticket to the mailbox and just mention, the alignment's off. I have tested, making sure we're using Adobe PDF viewer with the correct settings. If you haven't put that in the ticket, I'll normally ask you to make sure you're using X, Y, and Z, and you've set A, B, C. And if that's the case and it's still printing incorrect, I'll normally ask you for some measurements. Okay, if you didn't want to edit it yourself and you wanted me to do it, there's no issues. I'll normally ask you for some measurements. Okay, so how unaligned is it? Is it too much to the left? If so, how much? And then I'll go ahead and make some adjustments and I'll get you to test that again. So really, it's up to the user. If you want to try out yourself, go for it. You can't break it. It's all good. I can revert it back, or I can do it for you as well.
Just on that, I love playing around with spine labels. So I'm happy to
No one loves spine labels.
I'm happy to redo anybody's spine labels, doesn't matter what they are. The only proviso I'm saying is send me 2 sheets of your existing spine label and I'll do the rest. You don't even have to send me any measurement. Just send me 2 sheets, mark the tech note to mark the mailbox article to attention Michael, and I will get it for you. Now the only difference will be I am located in Brisbane, so we will give you a Brisbane PO box, because if you send it to Melbourne, it might take a week with Australia Post to get it to Melbourne, then might take another week for it to be redirected to Brisbane. But if you send it directly to Brisbane, have you got the mail PO box address?
No, off the top of my head.
Okay, so during the session we'll look it up, and if you send it directly to me, mark it to my attention, that's it. You don't have to do anything else. I'll do it for you.
There you go. Straight from the words of the CEO.
Easy. That's where it worked for me.
That's it. So there's your 2 options. So you've got the ability to flick off some examples of what's happening, as well as a sheet of labels, so that we can go and try and resolve that on our end. Or you can attempt it yourself within the system. So everything that you're about to see now is what we're going to do for you. Okay, so if you wanted to short circuit it and try and attempt it yourself, by all means you can do so. Otherwise, if you're feeling a little bit hesitant that you may be playing around with some system settings that you're just not comfortable to do, take the second option, flick it over to us. It may take a worst case scenario a week from the time that you send in the spine labels to the time that we can receive them, schedule a job and process it and get it all working for you. The actual working time may take us, worst case, a couple of hours on the day itself. But it is a fairly quick and easy process. So I'm just wondering, Donald, did you want to maybe share your screen and just walk us through where those settings are located, just so people know where they can
Yeah,
go about
definitely.
it themselves?
Yeah, before you do that, Donald, Brisbane PO Box is PO Box 569 Sherwood 475. PO Box 569 Sherwood.
Wicked. And I'll
Queensland.
I'll also put that into the description below as well.
You guys can see my screen?
Yep. I'll
Yep.
just
Beautiful.
make it a bit bigger so everyone can focus in on it. All right. Over to you, Donald.
So the first thing I'm going to show is just the print settings, okay, that we require you to use when printing your labels. So if you guys don't know already, you can access our help articles from your menu, select support and search help. Okay, so I'll quickly just find it. You can just type it in. Print settings, SmartSuite labels. Right, so you'll notice first off this little image here. This is opened in Adobe's PDF viewer. Okay. Once you select the print, you'll get this pop-up appear. If you're not seeing this pop-up, okay, it should look exactly like this. It means that you're not using the Adobe's PDF viewer. Okay. When you install it, it will ask you if you want to use this as your default. Definitely say yes. Okay. But once you've set these settings, you no longer ever have to set them again. Okay. So once you've checked, it says actual size, that's selected, beautiful, and you choose paper source by PDF page size is enabled. Okay. You don't ever have to check them again. Right. That's a beautiful part about this. It just accepts the settings. Every time you print it the same.
And
right?
that's going to be obviously on the computer that you're printing it on if you move to another computer.
Yes.
So it might be good practice as well to maybe contact your IT and see whether they can deploy that as a default setting, at least on your library computers, maybe across the whole network.
Yeah. One thing you do need to remember happens every year, without question, is users are getting their computers re-imaged at the end of every year. Okay, when they come back, it's obviously a technically brand new computer, and it doesn't have Adobe on it. So when they go to print, it's all out of whack. Okay, so if you are a site that regularly has their computers re-imaged at the end of the year, make sure you reinstall your Adobe. Okay, PDF viewer.
Yeah, good one.
All right, so if I jump back. A new page, beautiful. So, if you've tested all that and it's still printing incorrectly, these are the steps you now need to follow to make some adjustments to your report. Right, so, we go to our reports. So like this. Okay, you'll jump to your spine labels. Okay, if we've created one for you, you'll find it in the bottom section. Okay, but if it's a stock standard, you need to make adjustments to it. Select it from the top tier here. Okay, let's say using Reiko 12601. This is your most commonly found spine label. The other ones would be your 02 or 03, I find. Are used a lot. Now, your 01s are the small label, big label. Okay, big label having more information on it about the record. So if I just open this up, okay, I know I want to make a change to it. So at the bottom of my page, I'm going to click on Configure. Okay, it's going to create a duplicate for me. So let's just go. Okay, so you can name it whatever you want. It could be smaller font as it was before, bigger font, realign, whatever you want to name it, so you know what it is. I then want to jump to the template option. Okay, this is the far right tab. And this is what my spine label looks like in a template form. Okay, so the main things you want to look at are your margins, okay, and then your cell gap, row gap, okay, and that is this option here and this option here. Now, your cell gap and row gap will adjust the gaps between, so from horizontal and vertically. I think the cell gap is your horizontal, row is your row gap, okay? So you definitely want to be able to measure out your spine labels, so make sure you have them in front of you. You've got a ruler, start your measurements, okay? I would definitely print a test one first, and we always, whenever I tell people to print a test one, print it on a normal piece of paper. That way you're not wasting labels. Labels can be expensive, and when you're playing with spine labels, you're probably going to be printing upwards of 10 to 15 times to make sure that it's correct and you're happy with the alignment. So definitely print one on a normal piece of paper. You then hold it behind your spine label, hold it up to the light, and you'll be able to see the alignment. Okay.
Good one.
It's just a quick tip to save you a little bit of money right there. So you can send that to me if you want. Now, I did mention margin before. This little cog up the top here will allow you to edit your margins.
Just before you go on there, Donald, just to point out for everyone, those numerical values that we've got in cell gap and row gap, that is millimeters measurements, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So you don't need to put 0.2 or anything for centimeters. If you've got a cell gap of 2 mils, you've got 2 in cell gap. If there's no margin at all, the stickers are right up against each other, then obviously you've got 0 mils.
So you'll set your margins here. Okay, so this needs to be exact to the label. So from the left side of the label, or piece of paper, sorry, to the start of your first label, that will be your margin. Okay, same on the right, same on the top, same on the bottom. Okay, so make sure you're measuring from the edge of the piece of paper to the first label. Okay, the next thing you want to make sure is your cell gap, row gap. Okay, so once you printed off a test one, okay, that'll give you the perfect starting point. From there, you will make your adjustments. Okay, so if I printed one off, I noticed that the first label was a little too far to the left. Okay, so let's say, it's too far to the left. So what I would do is I would adjust my left margin. So I'll knock off 1 mil. Okay, but the thing you need to make sure you do is also increase your cell gap once you make a margin change. If you notice that you've got a gradual push to one way, so let's say it's too far to the left, that means every single label is going to be too far to the left eventually towards the end of the label sheet. Yep. Okay, so the way I like to do it is I lessen my margin and slightly increase my cell gap. Okay. So, but as you print them off, you'll notice, okay, it's still too far left on the third label. I'm going to decrease my cell gap and keep my left margin as is. Okay, so there's a lot of trial and error. I do whenever many of you I've spoken to before doing spine labels. First thing I say is trial and error. We're going to be on the phone for a while, or it's going to take a while to do because, I'll make a change. I'll get you to print. You'll test it. You'll tell me, yes, no, it's not right, blah, blah, blah. And then we'll try it again. So while you're doing it, you just need to remember trial and error. You'll get there eventually, but you just need to, measure, make an adjustment, save it, reprint. But they're the main areas you want to be playing with. If you were creating a report from scratch, obviously you wouldn't have any of this information. So your label width and label height, you'd have to measure out, enter that in. The number of rows and columns, so number of labels, left to right, top to bottom, you'll have to add that in as well. So if you're just editing an existing report, you really don't have to worry about your margins and your cell gap, row gap.
Yep. And obviously, just to recap that, get your first label right, make sure that
Yep.
that's printing dead center the way that you want it, and then move on with the next ones.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
And that's just going to, short circuit a little bit of the wait time by giving it a go yourself. And like you saw, what Donald did there was he actually duplicated a system report. So you can be very, very comfortable in the fact that you're not going to break the system. You're not changing the report for everyone else across the smart network. It's only going to be any change that you affect on any of our reports. The system by default creates a copy and allows you to edit that copy, not the original. So if any issues, you can always delete what you've done and go back and then either recopy or give us a call and say, hey, Donald, help. I don't know what I'm doing. Okay.
Yep.
And we're there to help you out. Okay. Cool. Thanks for that, Donald.
Not a problem.
Now, we've been talking a heck of a lot here about the spine labels themselves. Okay. I have done a number of trainings with administrators who are aware that they have these sticky labels that they've got to stick onto the side of the books, but they're not really 100% sure as to whether or not they want to use it in the library or what the purpose is. So maybe Michael, obviously you've been in library for probably longer than Donald and I combined. For those of our watchers today, do you want to just give a bit of a summary as to what a spine label is, why we use it, why it's important for a library to consider them, and if there's any alternatives to spine labels?
Basically, there's no alternative to spine labels. Okay, and if ever you go to a council library or any kind of a library, when you have a look at a book, it'll have a label on the edge, on the spine of the book. That's why they call it spine label. Now, what information you put there, generally a professional librarian with professional library training will go, that's where you would put the, what they call is a call number. That number is, if you're cataloging in SCIS and you're doing everything according to SCIS standards, which you should really seriously consider doing if you're not already doing it, because when you go and catalog a book from SCIS, it will give you the call number, which is that information that goes in the spine. And basically, it's you can Google spine label information, okay? And what it will do is, globally, there is a standard that says that if you've got a book and it's a history book and it's ancient history, okay, then there are certain ways of classifying it so that anyone that walks into a library that knows even a little bit about library will know where the history collection is. Or you'll walk into the library, you ask the front desk, and they'll say something like, it's in the 800 series, go and check on the 800 shelf. And that's what that spine label information is about. In the school area, and especially with SCIS, if you're looking at fiction, it'll generally be, if you're looking at DAL, it'll be DAL R. It'll be their first name, surname, and then their abbreviation of their surname, and then maybe the first letter of their first name. There is a change into putting genres on the book. Okay. Now you might want to say, yeah, well, we don't file it according to, call number sequence. We'd like a kid to pick up a book and see, oh, it's senior fiction, or it's humor, or it's drama. And that's the way you've chosen to do it. Personally, I think it's a simple, easy way to do that. Okay, and we can print that on your spine label. However, when you catalog a book from SCIS, SCIS will automatically put the spine label on that catalog record. We automatically print what's on that catalog record. So if you now want to change them, I say, no, I don't want to do it this way. I'm just going to genreify my collection. I would like the genre to appear there. Now, obviously, you might have senior adult fiction. Now, that's a massive word. So you'd have to come up with an abbreviation to do it. Okay? And you might have SNR for senior and FIC for fiction. You can do it that way if you want to. What's the standard? There really isn't a genreification standard to put on a spine label. Okay, so you could go ahead and do it. Just remember, the librarian or the person that comes after you might think, who on earth did this and broke all the standards? Okay, that's the downside of it. Hopefully you'll be gone and you'd say, no, I did a good system and everybody knew what it was, even though they had no idea about the library system or the filing system in the library. At the end of the day, it is your library. And we want to make sure that you run your library the way you want to run it, that makes it easy for your patrons, whether they be students, whether they be staff, whether they be patrons. You need to start using your library to make it more accessible to somebody that's not library trained, but where it also makes sense and it's logical.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's what the spine label printing is all about. But if you're a purist librarian, definitely stick to SCIS and definitely stick to the call number, because purist librarian, they go, well, everybody should learn library standards.
Yeah.
So you're at a crossroad. You decide which way you want to go, but whatever way you decide to go, SmartSuite Library will bend with you to make sure you can do what you want to do with your library and do it your way. And we are not going to be the ones to dictate that you should do not just the spine label, anything. It could be an overdue report. It could be an email. It could be a particular customs report that you do for the finance department for the value. Whatever it is, you need to remember that when you're running SmartSuite Library, we work with you to get it to give you and all your other people the information you want in the order, in the way, and in the layout that you want it. Spine labels are no different.
Yep. And that's probably going to be another topic for another coffee and chat session, as to how you can manipulate your data to do things and cater for things such as genreifying your collection. Global Functions, if you guys don't know about it already, is a module that's part of SmartSuite Library. It allows you to very quickly, very easily, not only move resources to different locations and sublocations, it allows you to update the data as well. So you can do things like isolate collections via a call number range and then update those call numbers to adult, senior fiction, or whatever it may be as part of your genreification. It's a very easy, very simple process. For us as customer service reps, it's a little bit daunting because the system is so powerful and easy to use. We have seen people click the wrong buttons. Donald, I know, has had to restore entire collections sometimes because someone's gone and clicked the delete button instead of the change button and deleted a whole bunch of resources. So there are checks and balances in it. It does push up a lot of prompts. Sometimes when we're in the thick of it and we get distracted by students coming up to the desk and whatnot, we just bypass those pop-ups and click the button anyway. But anyway, we might come back to that and another coffee and chat session.
Just another thing I just want to make sure that everybody understands, and that is the fact that, as library staff, it's not what it used to be years ago, where you were dedicated in the library 5 days a week and that's all you do. You now have to teach, you now have to mind kids, you now have to go to yard duty, you now have to go on excursion, you have to do all these other things other than library duties. So with SmartSuite, what you have to remember is all the mundane things and all the mundane reportings, like overdue notice, like reporting to teachers, like reporting to the accounts department, your budget, anything that's mundane that you have to do once a week, once a fortnight, once a term, once a month. Did you know that we can automate that whole process for you, where you set it up once and forget it and you never have to do it again, and it just happens automatically? So, that's maybe another thing that Quentin needs to organize a coffee and chat on.
Yeah,
You know,
definitely.
tell me all the mundane things that I do, and I'll tell you all the mundane things that then we can do for you and set it up once. So it's one of those automatic things.
Yeah, and let's start a group discussion. If you're on the FSI community, throw them out, start a poll. What are the things that you guys are doing that you just wish there was a simpler way to do it? We're obviously, as product designers, are going to come in and say this is how the product can deal with those issues. But there may be a colleague out there that's got an even better solution. And that's what the community is for. It's to bounce these ideas and concepts, and obviously allow us as the product designers to come up with new innovative ways to deal with some of those issues. Okay.
I might even, after this, start up a poll
Yeah,
on
cool.
the website community.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. And again, jump in. Nothing is a silly question. Everyone in the community is really open. So if you've got something to say, chuck it up there. Everyone's willing to take a listen and maybe even share some feedback with you. Okay. Now, Michael was talking about this thing of genreification. Before we go over, we've just got someone ask a question. Has Adobe had a recent update? My labels are now also out of sync, but only if I print via Adobe.
Interesting.
That is the funniest question I've ever had, because normally it's the other way around.
That's why. Yeah, that's why we default to it.
I'm getting all these funny changes. When I go to Adobe, it's perfect. So I've never come across that, but that's very, very interesting.
Yeah.
So we need to get together one-on-one and actually have a look and see it again. So I think if you can raise that as a ticket, mark it to my attention, I'm happy to look at it and work with you one-on-one and identify what it is, and then report back to the group as to how we solved it or what the issue was.
Yeah. So that one came in from Leanne Stevens.
Look forward to hearing from you, Leanne.
Okay. There very possibly may have been an update. Potentially could have wiped some of those settings that Donald showcased at the beginning in our help article. So we'd need to investigate and find out why that is the case. Okay. Leanne said she's going to post those labels to us. So
fantastic.
Thanks, Leanne. We'll have a look at that and try and figure out what's going on for you. Okay. So Michael was talking about this thing of genreification. Obviously, the default for libraries is to have your call numbers. Okay, when you go to the bookshelf, you know that is your 400s or 800s or whatever it may be, and you're looking for 801, 802, 803 chronologically. Genreification mixes it up a little bit, and as Michael said, I've heard different variations of it. I've heard that there's some libraries that are throwing sections out, and they've got wizards, fantasy, princesses, cars, all of that. With inside that, then everything is alphabetical by title. Some of our users go alphabetical by author. Some of them just have big boxes dotted around the place, and they chuck everything in there. So we've had a decent experience where to help the kids locate the books, we then have on the side of the book we've got the spine label, and then we've got a blue sticker. Okay, and that's for cars. Then we've got green for wizards, and we've got pink for something else, and so on and so forth. What we've done with SmartSuite is we've allowed you the customization to be able to go into the reports and actually change the spine labels that we're printing out. So if you're printing out your genreification tags, which is things like your adult senior fiction, ADL, SF, if that's how you're going to place it, you can color code them. So get all the adult fiction to come out as blue. Get all the blues to come out as something else. It means that you need to have multiple reports to manage this, and you need to select the correct report when you're printing off all of your spine labels. But it's something that's very, very simple and very, very easy to do. So I'll go ahead now and I'll just show that for you. Give me 1 second just to share my screen. So obviously I'm going to be doing all of this in SmartSuite, the same that anyone else would be doing it. You can do this yourselves. Okay. So within our smart reports, okay, we have reports created by FSI, which are all of our default reports. These are the ones that you can't change. These are the ones that we're creating for all of our users. And then you've got reports created by me. Okay, so if we're wanting to make any changes, my recommendation would be to start off with a base label. So something that we've already created, all the margins are there, when we don't have to worry about adjusting margins and cell gaps and all that sort of stuff, because we've already worked it out for what we're doing in the library to date. So choose your 12601 or your 12602, whatever it may be. Okay, and hit duplicate down the bottom. That's going to come up with that edit page, and we will change this to 12601, and let's just call it Wizards. Okay, and just like we did with Donald, we're going to head over to our template. Okay, now in here, for the 12601 label, the left-hand side is going to be that skinny label that we put on the spine of the book. And then the label on the right-hand side is that broad label, which goes on the inside cover page, which gives us information on the book just in case that title page was ripped out. We don't know what it is. We don't have the barcode. We don't have the call number or the what the book is all about. We've got that label on the inside cover sheet. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to try and affect. Apologies, my shortcuts on my mouse went back on the page. So let me just open that up again. Okay, we're going to call that Wizards. Donald's laughing because I'm a Mac guy and he's a PC, and we're always arguing which one's better.
PC. You just proved it.
PC.
Yeah, 2v1.
Yeah, that's it. Sorry, all of our Mac users out there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to
That's
edit.
the real reason you're having spine label issues.
Enough out of use. Okay, so coming back to genreification. Okay, I want to make this label a little bit unique in the fact that I want to promote that it's part of our wizard collection. Okay, so I'm going to hover over this section of the label and I'm going to click on the cog, which is going to open up the customization for that label. Now, from here, I can highlight that and I can tell the system I would like it to print this text in blue, and I can hit save. Okay, now what's going to happen is when I preview that, if I go and spit this out to the printer, this is what it's going to look like for me. So I'll have that broad label, which will be printed in black, so we're not going to be wasting too much color ink on our printers, but the spine labels are actually going to be printed in blue. So straight away, visually, when my clients are walking around the library, if they see a label that's been printed in blue, they'll associate that with the wizard section. Okay, from there, obviously, they can look at the actual details on the label, read it out that it's the adult senior wizard section or whatever it may be. But it also then starts aligning your library with a little bit of the accessibility standards that are out there. If you've got students that are colorblind, obviously they'll be able to read the actual text. If they're a little bit dyslexic, then they'll be able to associate it with the color. Okay, but we've got the ability to then take the next step. So we can edit that again, but this time what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to Google and I'm going to type in wizard cartoon. Okay, and I'm just going to grab this. I'm going to go copy image. I'm going to come back to my editor. Okay, and I'm going to paste that in. Okay, now that has pasted that image into my label. Now that is massive. Okay, so to make it a little bit smaller, I can right click, and I've got an option here to open up the image attributes. And in the width, I'm going to put in maybe 20 and the height 20. Okay, that hasn't adjusted enough for us. Oh, I put in 2. There you go. Okay, so that's my label there. Now remember, the bigger it is, the greater the chance that it's going to be that that's going to get cut off, because the more information we have on the label, it's got to do something with it. We either have to make the text a bit smaller by highlighting and adjusting the font size, okay, or we have to sacrifice that image. So if I save that now, and I preview what that looks like, okay, on my label, I now have the information for my genre or my call number. I have color coded the text to blue, and I've also associated a label or an image for that particular genre. And every time I go to use this report, that's what's going to be spat out to the printer, so I can stick that on the side of the book. So we no longer have to have 2 labels, one which is the spine label, one which is our genreification label. We can actually combine it within SmartSuite. And from here, every time we go to print something off for the genre, I open up reports created by me, go to spine labels, and there's my label for wizards. And you potentially would have a number of labels, one for wizards, one for cars, one for fairies, one for volcanoes, and you just need to go and select the appropriate one and then run that report when you go to print. Okay, and for those of you that use Global Catalogue, okay, every time we create a new spine label report, we can go and update the default spine label. So when you're doing your cataloging and you're scanning the ISBN barcode, at the end of your session, you can click print, but the print is going to send it to whatever the default label is in your system. So if we go to the up arrow next to configuration and we choose default spine label, for this session, we can say, send it to the wizards label. Okay, and when we print that off, it's going to send it to that report that we've created, not to whatever the default is. Okay, so if we do a whole bunch of wizards, then we change that again to, you know, a generic one, or we change it to cars or volcanoes, save it, and then print it again. That's going to allow you to have all these custom labels that you can start sticking on all of your books. Okay, so it really is that easy. There's not a lot of fussing about. It's all to do with just going in, understanding what it is that you want to achieve with the system, and just having a play. And if you forget anything that you have learned in the session today, this is going to be on our YouTube channel, so you can come back in and you can re-watch it at any time. You've got access to Donald and the customer service team through the mailbox. If you're a new user, you've got the concierge service, so reach out to us on concierge and we can help you out through that. And as well as, you know, sessions like this, register any topics that you want us to cover, and we'll be able to go through them with you. So even, you know, spine labels, if you want us to go into a bit more detail as to how to run genreification in your library with respects to spine labels, send that to Donald and we'll schedule it throughout the year. Okay, we've got a lot of these events and they're mostly driven by customers like you guys saying, hey, I want to know more about this part of the system or this aspect of libraries or this component of TV for Education and digital learning. Okay, so feel free and open to send that through. That's why we're here. Okay. So before we close off today, Michael and Donald, thank you so much for your time. I'm sure that everyone has, you know, taken something away from the session today. I know Leanne Stevens is going to be able to take something huge away. Even us, we have no idea what's going on with Adobe there, but we're definitely going to get to the bottom of it. Okay, so is there anything else, Michael and Donald, that you wanted to add to the session before we close off?
No, I'm looking forward to Leanne's ticket.
No, as long as you guys are happy, I'm happy.
And I just heard from Leanne. She said that she didn't click one of the radio buttons, which was print to actual size. So there you go. So
there you go.
Told ya. I bet you she was using a Mac as well, right?
Very, very possibly. So yeah, after the session, I'm going to post a link to the help article that Donald and the team have done up with regards to printing spine labels correctly. I'll post it in the comments of this YouTube video. We'll also post it onto the FSI community. So again, if you're not on it, within your system menu, Donald, help me. I think it's under support. Is that right?
Yes. Yep.
So under support, there's FSI community. Click it, subscribe to it. We've got some very exciting things coming for the community in the coming months. Be tuned in for the release of 4.1, which is going to just be absolutely exciting like you wouldn't believe. Big changes coming for search results, federated search, TV for education under 4.1. We're expecting that to be a couple of weeks. And that's all going to be the stepping stones for things that we're going to be doing with the community in the future. Okay, so stay tuned. But thank you very much for your attendance, everyone, and have a great rest of the week. We'll catch you next time on our next Coffee and Chat. Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
See you later.
Yeah.